The Sega Master System may be a hidden gem itself, as it was overshadowed in the 8-bit generation by the Nintendo Entertainment System. Despite being second fiddle and having 1/3 of the game library that the NES did, the Master System did have some very high quality games. Some of these games are well known, like Phantasy Star, the Wonder Boy series, R-Type, and Fantasy Zone. But many games didn't reach the spotlight and saw relatively little attention when released. But not anymore. Today, we're unearthing the biggest hidden gems on the Master System that deserve to be played and discussed. If this is your first time on the channel, or if you're a returning viewer that just hasn't yet, make sure you hit that sub button to see much more Master System content on this channel. And now, I present 10 hidden gems on the Sega Master System. Let's kick this off with one of the best multiplayer games on the Master System. Time Soldiers is a run-and-gun game that has you traveling through 6 eras of time, from the primitive age to the future world. The Galactic Emperor Guyland has captured 5 soldiers from Earth's Defense Force, and it's up to you to travel through time and bring them back safely. Along the way, you can pick up power-ups like the Tri-Shot, missiles, and energy gun to help blow away those enemies. Time Soldiers puts you in unique environments like the prehistoric ages, world wars, and of course, the future. Each stage will have a boss to defeat at the end that represents the time period, and once defeated, a soldier is rescued. This is a challenging but fair game with beautiful graphics, big boss fights, and tons of multiplayer fun. It also has some of the best cover art on the Master System. This is such a unique game for the Master System, and some might consider it a horror title based on the premise. During a lab experiment on the exploration of ESP and psychic abilities, an explosion occurs from the subjects that have been turned into monsters. The monsters escape the lab and take a hostage named Cecile. Her twin sister, Lucia, who is also a lab assistant, goes on a rescue hunt to find her sister and is aided by an ESP booster that gives her the ability to wield psychic powers. Psychic World is an action platformer where the player controls Lucia, making her way through levels, blasting monsters, and climbing ladders. Lucia has psychic abilities that allow her to damage enemies, freeze air, break barriers, and freeze enemies. Along with her attacks, she can use a shield, levitate, and teleport. There are 6 stages in Psychic World that will require the player to master the abilities to progress. This is a great action platformer that doesn't get much time in the spotlight. Originally an arcade game in 1988, the New Zealand story was ported to the Master System in 1988. The game stars Tiki, a kiwi bird who must save his girlfriend Fifi and several other kiwi birds who have been kidnapped by a large blue leopard seal. The New Zealand story is a platformer where at the end of each stage, the player rescues a kiwi chick that is trapped in a cage. Kiwis can't fly, but that doesn't stop this little bird from jumping and hopping on balloons and other vehicles from enemies to move up. You won't just be above land though. Some levels require swimming that monitors an air supply. To help Tiki rescue his pals, he can use a bow and arrow, bombs, a fireball wand, and a laser gun to destroy enemies. There is a time limit on each stage, and if the player takes too long navigating the level, they'll hear a jingle, and before long, a green devil will appear that will instantly kill Tiki if he is touched. This is a great platformer with a pretty cute touch. While Castlevania never came to the Master System, it did have a clone in Master of Darkness, and it's just as good. Released in 1993, the plot revolves around a 19th century psychologist who has been investigating paranormal activity and believes that the vampire Dracula is behind a series of killings that have been attributed to Jack the Ripper. It turns out that Jack the Ripper is indeed involved, as he's trying to sacrifice people to resurrect Dracula. Master of Darkness is an action platformer that requires the player to battle their way through 5 rounds, which are divided into 3 stages, each complete with a boss at the end. The story progresses through cutscenes, but to reach these, the player must battle an array of enemies that include zombies, bats, dogs, wolves, ghosts, skeleton, wizards, and owls. To help defeat these enemies, the player will have a primary weapon for close combat and a secondary weapon that shoots projectiles. Master of Darkness was overshadowed by Castlevania, but for those craving that type of adventure, Master of Darkness is a must-play. Even though Dragon Crystal was an early 90s release, the plot seeps with 80s lore. You're riding your bicycle one day and you turn down an alley. You see an antique shop that has never been there before, so you enter it. Sitting on the shelf is a glowing crystal that you decide to touch, and before you know it, you wake up in a forest in another world with a giant egg. You must make your way out of this maze filled with dangerous creatures and monsters. Dragon Crystal offers a roguelike experience with dungeon crawling and has the player make their way through 30 randomly generated levels, each increasing with difficulty. The hero can move freely, but the battles are turn-based. Once you defeat an enemy, you'll earn experience, and with enough experience, the egg will eventually hatch and turn into a dragon that will also grow with the player. Weapons, armor, potions, rings, food, and gold are randomly placed throughout the levels and can be picked up to help the player. Dragon Crystal offers a unique game style on the Master System that other games simply didn't offer, but it's flown under the radar for years. Indiana Jones was one of the hottest franchises in the 80s, and that meant a wealth of games on various systems. Released in 1992, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade features 6 levels, including a cavern, circus train, catacombs, Castle Brunwald, an airship, and the Holy Grail. The graphics are quite good for an 8-bit system, and the levels are all well-paced, giving you a sense of adventure. Indiana will have to whip enemies and avoid traps as he explores the levels, collecting items and sand timers to extend the level time. Ducking and timing jumps are a big part of the gameplay, so players will need quick reflexes when facing enemies and moving objects. While not overly difficult, this gives fans of the Indiana Jones franchise another option on the Master System in a sea of Indiana Jones games that saw releases on tons of different consoles. Sure, Mickey Mouse saw a lot of success in early platformers, but his pal Donald Duck had his own adventures that were just as good for the most part, and they went pretty much unnoticed. Scrooge McDuck tells his grandnephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, about his lucky dime that was the first coin that he ever earned in his fortune. So he decides to give each of them a dime for their birthday. But just as they accept their gifts, they are kidnapped by Magica de Spell, who believes their luck will make her the richest person in the world. It's up to Donald Duck to save his nephews and get the dimes back in the family collection. The Lucky Dime Caper is a platformer where Donald Duck can walk, jump, and swim. He defeats most of his enemies by jumping on them and will make his way through 7 levels. Donald Duck can also find weapons like hammers and frisbees, along with plenty of treasure. If you loved the Mickey Mouse platformers, you're gonna love this one, starring Donald Duck, that was overshadowed by the Mickey Mouse games. We've already seen 2 Master System games with beautiful artwork, and Submarine Attack makes it 3. Released in 1990, Submarine Attack is one of the most underrated shoot-'em-ups on the console. Instead of your typical space or air combat shoot-'em-up, you'll be controlling a submarine in a variety of levels. There are 6 action-filled levels, and your submarine is equipped with 2 different weapon systems. The first will fire above the sub in an arc that can hit enemies above the water, and the second is a missile that is shot directly in front of the sub. Both weapons have rapid fire and can be fired at the same time, making quick work of enemies. The player can pick up upgrades to the attack, speed, and health of the submarine, and you'll need that as the difficulty increases the further you get into the water. Boss fights are another perk to this game, as they are tailored to each level and are a tough challenge to bring down. Submarine Attack features gorgeous graphics and landscapes complete with unique enemies that make this game a hidden gem on the Master System. An educational game that not only helps kids learn world culture and geography, but is actually fun? Yep, a game like that really does exist. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is the perfect combo of learning and skilled fun. Both kids and adults will enjoy this as you investigate crimes committed by thieves under the command of Carmen Sandiego. You'll travel around the world interviewing eyewitnesses and putting together a criminal profile based on race, gender, hobbies, and clues about the criminal's location with famous landmarks, languages, and currency types. Once you have an idea who the criminal is, you'll call the Interpol to get an arrest warrant. This is where the real fun begins as you chase the criminal around the world. But look out, you're going to have to dodge their attacks as they tend to throw a lot of knives at you. The player continues to move up in rank and will eventually track down Carmen Sandiego and arrest her. It's rare that an educational game can be so much fun, but it's also addicting, tracking down criminal after criminal while being promoted. Many gamers may have turned away at the fact that this is an educational game, but they missed out on a really fun time. This should come as no surprise to fans of this channel. The ultimate hidden gem. Zilean is a must-own game for any Master System fan and is a must-play for any fan of retro video games. Based on the anime, Zilean puts you in control of JJ, who is on a mission to free his 2 comrades, Apple and Champ, while navigating a mammoth maze and setting up a self-destruction sequence. Perhaps because of the terrible cover art, Zilean was passed on by many gamers in the 80s, but if you did play it, it became an addiction. Once rescued, players will be able to switch between the 3 different soldiers, each with different traits and abilities, and these abilities are needed to progress in the maze, like Apple's high jumping ability. Zilean was extremely ahead of its time with the computer commands that the player had. Almost every room will be a mini puzzle where the player will need to find a floppy disk and insert it into the control panel to unlock the next door. Inside these rooms, the players will have to avoid security lasers, soldiers, moving floors, and security guns to collect the password that, when input with the floppy disk, will open the next door. The computer terminal can also be used to put codes in that will shut down the aforementioned hazards. Not only is Zilean filled with tons of puzzles and action, but there are also many secrets to discover to increase your weapon damage or restore your health. Near the end of the game, the player will have to fight a mammoth boss and input a self-destruct code that blows up the entire base. But beware, you'll have to make your way out of the maze in time, or you're blown up along with the base. It's a tough mission, but one of the most satisfying experiences of that gaming generation. So those were 10 hidden gems on the Sega Master System. Which one of those have you played? Which one of them do you want to play now? Leave me a comment below about which games you've played, and also give me some more recommendations for hidden gems on the Master System. Which games do you think deserve to be showcased? Drop me a comment, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe to my channel to watch more gaming countdowns and Sega Master System content. Thanks for watching.